Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank. As I start out, I just want to give you a brief apology if you can hear massive amounts of noise coming in the background, like sirens and such. It appears there's a bit of a kerfuffle going on, and I live next to a highway whose barriers have just been taken down for reconstruction. So, really sorry about that. I'll do my best to clear that out using noise reduction in post, but no promises either way. But on to our main focus, the Georgia Senate elections, the two runoffs. Now, to understand how these are going to go, first we need to look at how they went and how they got to a runoff. So we'll start with comparing John Ossoff's race versus David Perdue. John Ossoff is the Democratic challenger, David Perdue is the Republican incumbent. Now, as you can see, the total results were about 2.37 million votes for Ossoff, 2.46 million for David Perdue. Now, as you can see, Ossoff is clearly behind here. In any reasonable look at the polling, Perdue has the advantage. He's got not just incumbency, but he is not that corruption-plagued, and Ossoff has made one real run for a race and lost pretty big. But he has made up ground and does have name recognition because of the race he lost. And as you can see, if you recall back to when we did our overview of how Democrats could win Georgia or how Republicans could hang on to it, Ossoff is hitting all the right notes. He needed to win all the city areas, but he really needs this strip, and he really needs to begin to increase his margins in rural areas, like Coffee County, Emmanuel County, and the like. See, if he could just get himself up even to 35% on average for most of these places as opposed to low 20s, that would flip him over. But the reason Ossoff isn't out in comparison, because a 10,000 vote difference, that's hard to make up, even if you are expecting lower turnout for a runoff election and think you can decrease the margin. The real reason he's still in this is because, if we can load it, Joe Biden, he won Georgia. As you can see, Joe Biden got 2.47 million, Trump got 2.45 million. Or 2.46, depending on your rounding. But as you can see, that leads to two interesting pieces of analysis. One, Ossoff was horribly trailing behind Biden by about 100,000 votes. But more importantly, David Perdue does seem to be ahead of Trump by about 1,000 votes, which isn't much, mind you, but that is election-winning numbers. 1,000 votes wins you an election over someone else, and that indicates to me that Perdue got, not just by Ossoff having lower numbers than Biden, but Perdue having higher ones than Trump, indicates Perdue had some support that came from some people who voted for Biden. Now, good news there for the Republicans, in the fact that that means they've got a much stronger base going for Perdue. People are who are going to turn out are more likely to vote for Perdue. But also good news for Democrats, it does seem Ossoff, when compared to Biden, did have a very strong floor of only about 100,000 votes behind him. Meaning Ossoff could, in a low turnout election, still mobilize a good chunk of people who will come out to either vote for the Democrat or John Ossoff, not against Trump, which is, in my opinion, the biggest threat to the Democrats right now. They need to win. They need to really, really hope that a lot of people who are going to turn out for the Senate race aren't motivated by Trump, both on the Republican side and on the Democratic side. So the real question here is, as you can see, Ossoff had stupidly high numbers in places like DeKalb County, which is Atlanta, Henry County. All of these suburban areas, he had sizable margins. Meaning, if those are our usual suburbanites who show up for every election, and they can turn out the African-American vote, Ossoff has this. But so Democrats have a path to victory, it's just a less likely path. And also, I will not be reviewing polls yet, because virtually all of them were conducted before the election, and all we have right now is a Republican internal, which confirms what we're thinking and what I'm saying right now. So Perdue is ahead, But any real high Democratic turnout or higher motivation turnout for Ossoff flips this race. Now on to the other one, which is Raphael Warnock. Now, we can't do as well of a one-to-one comparison here because it was a jungle primary, meaning every candidate who was trying to win the seat, there was no primary. So every candidate who wanted to win the seat, whether they were Democrat or Republican, all ran together, and the top two go to the runoff. So Raphael Warnock is tentatively the favorite here. And I mean tentatively. Because I'd still put this race as tilt Republican right now, but he is tentatively, if one of them's going to flip, it's going to be the special election. So we can't really compare the maps as well because we don't get all the candidates, but we are seeing Democrats had high numbers in the same areas Ossoff did, and are polling, have the same issue of polling behind Biden. But interestingly enough, so did Loeffler. When we total up the votes we've got so far, both of these candidates polled behind where their presidential candidate did. This is especially bad for Loeffler because, or Loeffler, I kept calling her Loeffler. Loeffler, I guess is her actual name. Loeffler is very unpopular. Not only was she appointed to the seat, which is inherently a disadvantage when you are appointed and are viewed as kind of a, not who your average person would have chosen pick. So, like, if he had appointed Doug Collins, I don't think we'd be having any of the Loeffler problem. But also, she's got a big scandal involving insider trading, which basically means using Congress information that on what Congress has or what Congress is going to do, specifically with coronavirus this time, to buy stocks or sell stocks to inflate her own worth. So she's got that scandal on her, and Raphael Warnock does have the advantage of he is a very popular and is viewed as rather statesman-like, compared to Ossoff, who is viewed as a tad green in comparison. Green being new, not the political party. But as you can see, Raphael Warnock does reinforce that this isn't a fluke on the, oh, well, the Democrats won here, 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 like the big cities. So we know they've got the numbers here to turn out. And if they get anywhere close to Election Day numbers, it's over. Because for a runoff election, you can expect numbers to drop. But as you can see here, again, the Democrats are not polling as well as they need to be to run up the numbers. They don't need to far and away win these districts. They're not going to. But they do need to be breaking more than like 25%, 26% here. They need to be breaking 30s. If they do that, because if that's maybe 100 votes in each of these counties, but that adds up really quickly, especially in some of the larger rural counties where you could get about 1,000-ish more. That could swing the election, because even if we go back to our Perdue Ossoff race, they're separated by less than 1,000 votes. In practice, they're separated by just under about 8,000. 75,000 actually, now that I do the math in my head briefly. Those are achievable numbers for a candidate to make up, especially knowing that someone like Ossoff has an advantage in the form of, when we compare Perdue to Biden, when it loads, Biden won by about 15,000 more votes than Perdue got, meaning Biden is a good brand for Georgia. If they just phrase this as a vote for Ossoff is a vote for Biden, that could work for them. Or just run on vaguely popular issues that are like raising the minimum wage or things like that, if they can turn out those votes as well. But for right now, the way I'm putting it is the main Senate election for Georgia, the normal election, the general election, is currently leans Republican, while the special election is currently tilt Republican, with quite a bit of possibility for volatility going forward. So, if you like the video, drop a like and a comment down below. If you want to see more from the channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell to be alerted when new content comes out. I also have a Twitter at OneManThinkTan1, the Roman numeral, linked down in the description below. And otherwise, as always, have a wonderful day.